What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to Picking a Fight. I'm Latch.
I'm Jeff.
And today we're going to be looking at UFC 281, Adesanya versus Pereira. We're going to be looking at Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't. We're putting out videos for almost every fight night and pay-per-view. So you're looking for content like this, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out. And yeah, let's hop right into it. So we got Dan the Handman Hooker. He's 21-12. He's 32 years old. He's 6 foot with a 75.5-inch reach, and he's coming off back-to-back losses to Arnold Allen and Islam Makhachev. And he's going up against the Prince of Peru, Claudio Puelles, who's 12-2. He's 26 years old. He's 5'10" with a 72-inch reach, and he's currently on a 5-fight win streak, with his last 3 being against Clay Guida, Chris Gutzmacher, and Jordan Levitt. And Dan Hooker will be coming in as a minus 155 favorite, while Puelles will be a plus 135 underdog. And this is Dan Hooker's return to lightweight after he went down to 145 to face Arnold Allen. He's back at 155. And yeah, what you think, Jeff?
I think Dan Hooker is a very tricky guy to analyze because he has lost 4 of his last 5 fights, and he has lost them in various ways. In his last 2 fights, he lost by submission to Islam Makhachev, and then after that, he lost to Arnold Allen on the feet, which I feel like no one was really expecting that. Yeah, and I think Dan Hooker, although his wrestling is not great, I think his wrestling is better than Claudio Puelles. I think in one of the fights, DC made a good comparison that Claudio resembles Damian Maia. I think that's a very good comparison, except that I think Claudio is a little bit better at wrestling, but he's still not that great. And I think Dan Hooker would fare well with the wrestling. I think he would have the advantage there. The thing is, I don't know, Dan Hooker likes to throw some kicks not at 100%. Like, he kind of throws lazy kicks. And he likes to throw that knee a lot, which I think could be very bad for him. It could get him taken down. Dan Hooker has to be really careful if he keeps us on the feet. I do think he has a slight advantage. I think Claudio, even though he doesn't like to stay on the feet, I do think he's very fast. And I do think that his leg kicks are nasty. So I think that, or not leg kicks, his kicks are nasty. So I think if Dan Hooker is not very careful, that he can get knocked out, or he can get submitted, obviously, if he takes it to the ground, which I don't think so. But saying that, I think Claudio is going to win. I think he wins by TKO. I think Dan Hooker is a little slow, but he is getting back in his comfortable weight. I think the reason why he did bad against Arnold Allen is because he went down in weight, and he didn't really give himself enough time to adjust. I think a lot of fighters do this. I think Cody Garbrandt is a good example too. He went down in weight, and he struggled against Kai Kara France. It's just different when you go down or up in weight. So saying that, I think Claudio, he has a slight advantage in this matchup, and I think I have him by TKO. What you think?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. Like you said, I think Claudio's wrestling would be the biggest question, because obviously he's a very dangerous grappler. He has already 3 knee bars already in his young UFC career so far. So he's very, very dangerous. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. Like you said, that Damian Maia comparison is pretty spot on. We saw in his fight against Chris Gutzmacher that his takedowns looked pretty sorry, to be honest. Like, they didn't look athletic, and he didn't look very natural. Obviously, he's going to be practicing that. In his last fight against Clay Guida, Clay's a natural wrestler, and he was able to kind of get the best of him. But that's not to say that he wasn't in some pretty bad positions getting dominated by, a much more powerful wrestler. Dan Hooker, well, we saw him get taken down and absolutely, mauled by Islam. But obviously, Islam's in a different stratosphere when it comes to grappling. So that's not a fair comparison. I disagree with the Arnold Allen. I don't think his problem was that he went down and didn't adjust. I think it was that Arnold Allen is the real deal. He's always had hands. It's just he kind of had that kind of like that stigma that he was a born fighter because of his last couple fights. But he did have hands, and Dan Hooker, obviously, I don't want to call him a journeyman, but he's faltered to the top talents. This is a big test for Puelles, because if he can beat Hooker, I mean, that's a big statement for him to show that he is the real deal right now, even though he's only 26 years young. But the biggest question will be Dan Hooker's wrestling defense. And honestly, he's practiced so much, and honestly, I still can't put like a definite measure on where it's at. But honestly, I think it is going to be good enough, just because Puelles' wrestling looked pretty bad in his last outing. So I'm going to say Dan Hooker wins by decision. I do think he'll be able to stop the takedowns, and I think Puelles' hands won't be able to keep up with Dan Hooker. I just don't think his hands have developed yet, and Dan Hooker's a big, big guy. So I'm going to go Dan Hooker by decision. All right, well, those are our predictions. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Do you think Puelles proves that he's the real deal, or do you think Dan Hooker takes out another young prospect? Let us know down below. And yeah, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't. Check out our other videos. We're actually doing every other fight on this same card, including the main and the co-main event, which are absolute bangers. So go ahead and check those out. Don't forget to tune in. It's going to be a great night of fights, and we'll see you next week. But until then, take care.